So I am the product of a cheap Jew from the Bronx and an ardent feminist from Berkeley, California. And that meant a couple things for me as a child, which was, number one, I was not allowed to play with Barbie dolls. They were forbidden in my household, which, to be totally honest, was perfectly fine with me. I wasn't really a Barbie doll kind of girl. I was more into My Little Ponies.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, lest you think that that's girly, don't get me wrong, those ponies were doing things like solving crimes, like having adventures, just sparkly and in a magical world. Another thing that meant for me was that I wasn't allowed to take dance classes, which is why I started with t-ball, and then stuck through until high school with softball, which has earned me a certain reputation today, that some people in the audience might be familiar with. Also, I was forced, my sister and I wore a lot of blue, because according to my mother, gender was just a social construct, which was totally proven wrong when she had my brother 6 years later, who was the first child in our family to deliberately light things on fire, you know, to electrocute himself, and then 2 hours later do it again. We had a toaster that, I can't tell you, I don't even know how it lasted that long. He would like shove little pieces of paper in it and it would constantly light on fire. Or like he'd shove pennies down and all of a sudden something would explode. So that proved her wrong. But what it also meant was that my mother refused to do any of the cooking, which would have been fine if my father could cook. But he had a couple staples that he was really proud of. One was Chicken McFriedman, which was more creatively named than, you know, tasting. It was just a piece of, you know, chicken breast cut up and then fried in a pan. I don't know if you can even call it fried. It was in a pan sprayed down with Pam cooking spray, and then served with a side of barbecue sauce. Boom, Chicken McFriedman. Or eggs rolled up with jelly was another favorite in our house, which is exactly what it sounds like. Like, stir up some eggs, put it in a pan, it would make this like egg pancakey thing, and then he'd squeeze out this big thing of grape jelly out of, you know, those like gigantic plastic squeeze things, and then roll it up, and that was eggs rolled up with jelly. But the most constant, like, the real staple in our house was not unique to my father, but it was spaghetti with ketchup, which, yeah, it's actually like not, it's a New York Jew thing. Like, I don't know if anybody else has family from the Bronx, but it's pretty common. Thank you. It's actually pretty common if you grew up, you know, where my dad did. So we ate spaghetti with ketchup on a regular basis. We probably had it at least twice a week. And I had no concept of the fact that other people did not eat spaghetti with ketchup at least twice a week. And as I mentioned, my dad was really cheap, like the kind of cheap, like he wouldn't even buy us videotapes. So like, if we wanted a movie, he would steal a used VHS from his work and then bring it in, take something off the TV, whatever happened to be on. But he works with Parkinson's patients, so the videos that he was taking from work were used to record like elderly people doing coordination exercises. So we would like invite friends over and be like, want to watch a movie? And like pop in this VHS tape, and the first 3 minutes would be like some old person staring at the camera. And then the cameras would come on. Like, that's normal. That's of course. So, and of course, we never went out to dinner. We never went out to dinner. Once in a blue moon, if we did go out to dinner, it was no frills, no soda, no appetizers, no desserts, cheapest entree on the menu, get in, get out. I did not have exactly the most refined palate, so to speak. So, long intro aside, the summer, I think between like maybe 4th and 5th grade, my friend, I'll call her Francesca Giuliani, and invited me to spend a week with her family in Narragansett, Rhode Island. And they had this little house that was down the street from her grandparents' house, and their grandparents were like Italian, like they got off the boat, didn't even bother to learn English. So they invited us over one night for dinner. And so we went over to the Giuliani's, and they made the most beautiful spread. Like they pulled out the tablecloths and the fine china, and they made this like beautiful 4-course meal, which I had no experience with. And I'm sure they cooked everything from scratch. I'm sure the tomatoes that came from their garden and were like simmering in deliciousness all day. And I sat down, dinner table and did what I thought was totally normal and raised my hand and was like, can I get some ketchup? Francesca's dad was like, kind of put off, but was like, oh, whatever, okay. And he stood up and he went to the refrigerator to get it, and that caused a bit of a stir. Because now I understand that any self-respecting chef, like if someone asks for salt, like that's insulting. I can't imagine what they thought of me being like 9 years old asking for some sort of refrigerated condiment to add to their beautiful meal. So there was like a little bit of workup going on. So finally Francesca's dad was like, okay. He's like, Debbie, why do you want the ketchup? I was like, well, duh, I mean, you're all going to thank me in a minute when the spaghetti comes out. You're all going to want your ketchup, so it's like, duh, for the spaghetti. And I'm sure they understood that part, because it was like an eruption happened in that dining room. Like, the grandparents were like standing up and gesticulating wildly with arms, like people were slapping the table. And it was like, at that moment, like 3 generations of Giuliani's yelling at me about my food choices. And I was like, well, maybe my family's the weird one. It's such a learning experience. First time it dawned on me. So thank you so much.